I will be chairing the meeting and I'm going to be supported by the Vice Chairman, Councillor Simon Bull. We have housekeeping arrangements to go through. Please note that the meeting is being recorded by the Council for live and subsequent broadcast, and it will be published on our website, the Council website, for a minimum of 6 months. And in order to ensure the meeting is managed effectively, please could everybody follow our ground rules. If you wish to speak, please indicate that you wish to do so, and obviously we now have the technology which makes life much easier. Where there appears to be consensus in the meeting for a motion, I will ask if there is any dissension. When a formal vote is required, this will be carried out via the desk equipment. The results will be displayed on the screens in the chamber. And to remind members, this is no different to the visibility of voting when using the 360 camera. But if requested, a recorded vote will require support from the quarter of the members at the meeting as before, and that will be carried out as well via the desk equipment. And the results of any recorded vote will be displayed on the screens, and named voting results will be included in the minutes of the meeting. Members, if anybody needs to leave the meeting, could you just give me a little wave so that I know you've gone? That sounds like that known unknowns, doesn't it? I know you're not here, but you know what I mean. In accordance with the Constitution, I will allow for comfort breaks as appropriate. And please avoid leaving if you can during any debate that we're having. Points of order raised must state the applicable constitutional provision, so which I'm sure we all know. In line with the Code of Conduct, I will assume that all councillors will uphold the highest standards of conduct during this meeting and treat one another with courtesy and consideration. And as a reminder, although this is a meeting being held in public, it is not a public meeting. It's a meeting with public in attendance to observe proceedings and the debate. So can I request that members of the public who are here remain silent during all the items? Thank you, members. That was all the housekeeping I think we have to do tonight. Agenda item 1, apologies. Chief Executive, we have a lot of apologies. Could you read them out, please?
Thank you. Good evening, Council. So we have received apologies from the following: Councillor Hazel Allen, Councillor Julie Bagwell, Councillor Patrick Canavan, Councillor Michelle Dower, Councillor Dwayne Farr, Councillor Anne Filer, Councillor Andy Hadley, Councillor Mark Howell, Councillor Chris Matthews, Councillor Jamie Martin, Councillor Margaret Phipps, Councillor Felicity Rice, Councillor Vicky Slade, Councillor Lawrence Williams, Councillor Bobby Dove, and Councillor Pete Miles.
Thank you very much. Declarations of interest is agenda item 2. Do I have a request to speak? Richard Herritt is, yeah. Rachel Maidment, yes, we'll add that. Thank you, Rich. Thank you. Declarations of interest, item 2. Yes, Chief Executive, do we have any declarations, please?
We have not received any declarations of interest for this evening's meeting, but if any member is required to make a declaration, they should refer to the flow chart set out on the agenda, please.
Thank you. Right, now, this is announcements, but they're not particularly chairman's announcements. They're not where I've been and what I've done, as they usually are. So before we move on to the next item, I'd like to make some announcements. Firstly, I'm sure Council will join me in giving a warm welcome to our newest councillor, Dawn Logan, who was elected as ward councillor for Talbot and Branksome Woods at last week's by-election. So welcome, Councillor Logan. And another announcement, which I really want to give you, is we are offering Council's greetings to our newest political group, BCP Independence Group, whose leader is Councillor Stephen Bartlett. And for clarity, we will be reviewing the new political balance calculations in the Council meeting in October. So thank you. Thank you, Stephen, and associated members. And the Conservative group have a new leader. Congratulations, Councillor John Beasley. Thanks, John. And now we also have 2 welcomes to make from here. Can we welcome our new Chief Executive, Aidan Dunn, sitting here, and yes, finished clapping, I think. And, well, we have to do another clap then, all right. Interim Director of Legal and Administration is Robin Watson. Thank you. Now, we must clap him as well. Okay. Right, so I think that's all the clapping announcements. Now we, we have a sadder one now, which is about Dame Annette Brooke. I'm sure we all know now that she passed away in August. Dame Annette was a prominent councillor for Poole Borough Council, Mayor of Poole in 1998, and became an MP in 2001. I knew her very well, and I thought she was an absolutely wonderful character and always very helpful, and she did a really good job. The memorial service for Dame Annette will take place on Friday, the 10th of October, 2 p.m, Wimborne Minster, and the family would like any councillor who wishes to attend, I think any civic member at all, councillor or officer who knew her, and including anybody that's never met Annette but was influenced by her work. I'm looking round. Does anybody wish to say a few words about Annette? We'll wait for the October meeting. Okay, thank you. And turning over the page. And the last announcement is about Her Royal Highness Catherine, the Duchess of Kent, who passed away in early September. We were going to have a minute's silence if council so wishes. Does anybody wish to have a minute's silence for Her Royal Highness? Yes, I see Judy getting up.
With regard to Dame Annette Brooke, will we have a minute's silence for her at this meeting, or is that for October, Millie?
Yes, we'll go with what the leader says, and I think we will all be give our respects to the Duchess of Kent.
The next meeting. Is that correct?
Yes, Annette.
Thank you very much.
Yes, Annette,
Thank
and we
you.
are not having one for the Duchess of Kent.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Judy. I'm sorry, I should call you councillor. Okay, right. So we now move on to what we didn't do at the end of last meeting, which is... Who's not logged on? Oh, okay. I'm just being told that perhaps somebody has not logged on. Can you all check that you have logged on? I don't know how you check. I'm leaving that to Richard.
Chairman, if I could just read out, there's some councillors that don't appear to be logged in, although some of them are now, I think, signing in. So apologies if you've just signed in. Councillors Andrews, Councillor Chick, sorry, Councillor Andrews, Councillor Chick, Councillor Nonovo, Councillor Richardson, Councillor Moriarty, Councillor Paul Slade and Councillor Waite don't appear to be signed in.
I can hear muffled either excuses or something, or problems from the back. Right, everybody managed to log in now. Richard, is that right? Right, we're very keen to get you all logged in because we won't know what on earth you're voting for, will we? Okay, back to agenda item 3. Notices of motions in accordance with Procedure Rule 10. The first one, repair and reuse initiatives. Councillor Richard Herritt, I call upon you to move your motion. Thank you, Councillor.
So I've been to visit the lovely people at Bournemouth Repair Cafe a few times now. They do excellent work, are incredibly friendly and really passionate about reducing the amount of waste that goes to landfill. This motion was written with them, and they've recently been to Parliament, although slightly less recently now, where they saw some of the area's MPs and promoted their work. There's a huge amount of waste generated in the UK. The UK is the second highest per capita for electrical waste in the world. Repair and reuse is central to achieving a truly circular, less wasteful economy. By councillor standards, I'm not particularly old, as I like to remind my ward colleague as often as possible. But I am old enough to remember washing machines that were repairable by my dad and cars designed to last for ages, not the 7-year design cycle that we now seem to be on. It's not only of benefit environmentally, but also financially, as less waste is less buying, leaving people better off, and more repair means less waste, obviously, into the waste system too, meaning less bills for taxpayers. So a simple ask that we endorse the repair reuse declaration, support the Bournemouth one that also works in Poole as well. Other organisations in Christchurch and Southbourne have been kicking their work off recently, and obviously they need their own as well. We can then offer as a council access to network space and where available, funds. And lastly is to ask the leader to write to the Secretary of State for Business and Trade to take further repair and reuse in manufacturing, training and repair skills, and supporting the repair reuse community. Hope everyone can get behind this. It's very logical, treating a great local organisation in helping further, of course, benefit to everyone, supporting skills, improve finances, improve recycling and reducing waste. That's it.
Thank you, Councillor Herriott. And now you have a seconder, I believe, Councillor Harman.
To second and speak now, if that's all right, Chair.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is a common sense motion. Reducing our waste and reusing what we can should be the natural state of things. Not too long ago, I was asked to lead a session at my local Cubs group, and it was a group of 7 to 10-year-olds, very excitable, and it was a brilliant session. What I did is I put in front of them a discarded pile of random rubbish from my house and said, what are you going to do with that? And it was amazing. It resulted in some brilliant creations. They made some Christmas decorations, and it was out of bits of bunting and straws and string and foil and all sorts of other things that otherwise would have ended up in the bin. And not only were they brilliant decorations that were created, but being able to watch the children's imaginations flourish as they repurposed all these bits and bobs with pride was amazing. It was something that their hands had created, and it was wonderful to watch. I think naturally reusing items as the go-to option is something we need to not just encourage adults to do, but crucially, we need to embed it within the younger generation as well, so that once again, it becomes the habit or the norm. And we're so fortunate to have places like the Bournemouth Repair Cafe, who already work to do this with members of the community. Their aim is to reduce landfill, challenge throwaway culture, and bring people together from all walks of life in the local community to share tools, time, knowledge, and ideas. And I think the idea of bringing together members of the community, transferable skills, enrichment of minds, and doing stuff that is great for our planet are all, I'm pretty sure we can all agree, really wonderfully brilliant things. So I'm very happy to be seconding this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Harman. Any other members who wish to speak? I haven't got anybody on my list so far. Righty-ho. Councillor Herriott, do you wish to wind up? I won't ask you. Oh, George. Councillor Farquhar, thank you.
All right, Chair, and we're off. Yes, no, it's obviously welcome to reuse. I'm a great believer in the reuse and repurposing of items, including every item that you see me wearing is from charity shops. So it's something which I can fully get behind. A couple of questions, though, is that I've had requests from residents of an artistic bent looking for materials. So I see that it counts for storage, etc. But it's how you actually make that available to the wider community, which I'd like to support, sort of delve into, so that people are aware that they can get this stuff to reuse, repurpose. The Christmas decoration is a perfect example. But then that takes me on to our thoughts of our own household recycling centres. Our household recycling centres have gone through a variety of changes since I moved to Bournemouth in 2011. I used the one in Christchurch, and there used to be items that were too good to throw away were actually put to one side so people could purchase them. But then the council, in its wisdom, decided that that wasn't really working for them and decided that we'll do a new to you purpose, hopefully for the homeless and those that are setting up home or people in distress and so on and so forth. However, the council hasn't delivered on the storage warehousing facilities for the quantity of stuff which could be resalvaged for repurposing. So what actually happens is that when the warehouse is full and you can't actually get out into the new to you shop, I think over Winton Way, then that stuff which was put to one side that people could actually reuse and repurpose is get thrown into the landfill. So we ourselves need to look closer at the quantity that we have across this conurbation and how we actually purpose it. So it's a great idea to repurpose it and reuse, but if we're actually not going to give the storage space for our own household recycling centres, then we're losing a great capacity, which actually could serve people very, very well. So I think a little bit more thought to actually what we're doing currently, to support this initiative, and in the way that we can communicate that these things are available for people to either, the repair shops is a great example. However, there are many people that are in need that would benefit from that facility being reopened at the community tips. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Farquhar. Councillor Trent, can I just thank Councillor Trent for logging in rather than waving his hand? Thank you.
Yeah, it takes a while to get used to the different way of doing things. I fully support this motion, and I personally think it should go further. And I agree with what Councillor Farquhar said about the household recycling centre, because it needs to be easier for people to leave stuff that is semi-working, and for people to be able to sort of take stuff on that they will need. And I say that as someone who's in my rather amateurish way have repaired some things, in some cases to satisfaction, but I do think this is actually a wider issue, and I know that the EU was working on it a few years ago, and I don't know what the progress is on that, but the built-in obsolescence to so much that we buy, I think, is atrocious. I think it's actually one of the biggest environmental crimes we're committing. We're creating heaps and heaps of rubbish and all of the contaminants that go with that rubbish, simply because people are not building things to last. And I think a couple of times ago when I was having my car repaired, the guy who was repairing it was saying, you know why all these 10-year-old cars are on the back of lorries being taken to my namesake scrapyard? It's because they have components in them that after 10 years, or even less than 10 years, you can't replace. There are components that wear out, that sort of, usually electronic modules. And I think that is awful. And I do hope that we can add our voice, and maybe the environment scrutiny can sort of maybe look at it to try to get a little bit more positive action in overcoming this built-in obsolescence. And let's get, let's start to think about making things that are quality, that last, and that are repairable, because I think that's an essential part of where we need to go in the future. So I fully support the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Trent. I must say I used to often patronise your namesake scrapyard, not for my current car, but Councillor Burton, you wish to come in.
Thank you, Chair. Well, first off, I just realised this is the debate. Perhaps I ought to declare an interest here, because I am a trustee of a charity called Win on Waste. And to a certain extent, the better that this does, the less stuff we get. But saying that, because we raise money by recycling things to help other charities, But saying that, I think as a charity, we would like not to exist because we would like this sort of thing to happen. So I don't think it will affect. So therefore, I'm very much supportive of this. I believe in Japan, there's a technique where people look at things which have been broken and repair them and make that very obvious and visible and show those things with pride. And I think as a society, the repairing of things and actually showing that we can repair and reuse things should now be highlighted as a positive thing. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor David Brown, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to, probably like Councillor Burton, actually just declare a small sort of personal interest in this. As some people know, I trade in, one of my sidelines, I trade in vintage items, mainly records and stuff like that. But I know through that I have a lot of contacts who work on upcycling stuff, repairing and reuse and reselling things. So for me, this is really good motion. For me, the important bit there is about repair and reuse should be a thriving sector of our economy. And I think it already is to an extent. You know, there's a lot of sort of traders and people who do this upcycling and do sort of make use of, give things a second life and make sure that they go on for longer and longer. But yeah, I really think this is important to actually make that an even bigger and better part of our economy, because there are a lot of people in our communities who actually are making a decent living, you know, actually as self-employed people upcycling things and making sure they're reused. So the more that we can do of that, the better. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Councillor Butt, don't get up, Judy, unless you can. Thank you.
You're present, Madam Chairman. Thank you so much. As the owner of a fairly elderly, well, a very elderly Kenwood mixer, which some of you might have, and it's repaired religiously, and it was made in the year of my birth, so it's extremely elderly, I certainly support this motion. One of the things I'm thinking of, in my ward, we have, sorry, Madam Chairman, in my ward we have an air ambulance, large clothes containers. We have 2 of them. They're bright and yellow, and they sit near our community centre. And the biggest trouble we had with these particular containers was getting a site for them, getting a site which was safe, looked after, CCTV and all that sort of stuff. And Air Ambulance, and I'm sure other charities, would welcome the ability to work with the council to site more of these clothes bins, because they are used. Ours are always overstocked at various celebrations, Easter, at Christmas, etc., etc. We are right next to Julia's house, so if it's not taken at Julia's house, it tends to be dumped by the clothes bins. But I think that is something that we could take on board to work with various charities, citing clothes bins. And if we can cite them in areas which are safe, because the area ambulance would like 6, but we can only do 2. So I think that's something that should be taken into consideration, and I certainly support this motion. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, councillors. I think we've got a very good consensus there of everybody being in favour of this motion. Councillor Herritt, now would you like to wind up?
So yeah, thank you for everyone's contributions. Unfortunately, our portfolio holder for waste is not here this evening, but I'm sure I can take Councillor Farquhar's points about Christchurch back to him. I'm more than happy to help organisations as suggested by Councillor Butt. Back to the material, Dorset Scrap Store, if you're not aware of it already, just relocated off Alder Road, has a great collection of materials of all sorts, and you can get many things there in this arena as well. Not much more to add at this point, so hopefully we can move to a vote.
Right, thank you, Councillor Herritt. Members, can we accept this by consensus? I feel that we can. Agreed. Thank you. Thank you. That's a consensus for that motion. Thank you, Councillor Herritt. Right. The next item is vacant sites for affordable housing. Councillor Cooper, I understand that you're going to request an amendment to the original motion. Would you like to explain the reasons for that, and then the council will determine your request without debate? So, Councillor Cooper, please.
Got a motion by the leader, which we accepted, and that's been bounced back. So we will be voting on the motion as amended by the leader and her group. That's the situation as I understand it, or as we understand it. We've accepted it wholly, so we can
Okay,
get on our horses and ride.
so council has accepted that. Is that what you're saying? Right, so can you read out the amendment for us and then we'll know what we're accepting? Thank you.
The Democratic Services will distribute it by email.
I'm sorry, George, I didn't understand that because you spoke too quickly. Can you repeat it?
Distributed by all members at the meeting because it has to be received in writing as per the Constitution by Democratic Services. I'm not sure if it's already been, the amendment which has been accepted has already been distributed. And if so, at what time was it?
I'll have to ask the officer that. Thank you. So 7:19 tonight, apparently, George, Councillor Farquhar.
Reads, the council therefore resolves to ask the Housing Strategy Steering Group to review the council's housing strategy and ensure targets are being met to meet present and future need and deliver on the priority actions identified over the next 18 months, including point 1, reviewing the council new build housing and acquisition strategy to deliver new social and affordable rented homes. 2, regeneration of key sites, Winter Gardens and Hull Bay, increasing joint working with registered providers to deliver new social and affordable homes. The next amendment is point 2 is ask the appropriate overview and scrutiny committee to consider options and obstacles to housing delivery and to decide areas of focus that are realistic and will lead to housing delivery. Ask the appropriate overview and scrutiny committee to include in this work information on council-owned sites, including the amount of capital currently authorised, the amount of capital expended to date, loans taken out, and the loans interest paid to date. Point 3, note that within a context of constrained resources, the council uses all available legal planning and enforcement tools, including compulsory purchase powers, where justified, to persuade developers and landowners to act. 4, ask the leader to write to central government asking for stronger powers to deter land banking and support councils to deliver genuinely affordable homes for local people. And at the end of that, it says, best wishes, Millie. Sorry, I couldn't resist it.
Well done. Thank you, Councillor Cooper, for those good wishes to us all. Yes, so has everybody now seen that? And we've heard Councillor Cooper. Councillor Cooper, do you want to speak on it now? If you're in support of this. I'm sorry, I'm not with you. Oh, I see what you mean. Oh, I see, yes. Councillor Cooper, I've got that wrong. Council just needs to agree to the amendment, which I think will be by consensus. Is that not right? Looking round, nobody's looking grumpy. Now, Councillor Cooper, carry on.
Long day. So I'm bringing the motion forward because our communities are crying out for affordable social housing, as you all know. Yet we are surrounded by vacant, neglected sites that sit empty year after year, contributing to nothing but blight, frustration, and antisocial behaviour in kind of many cases. Let me bring it home with some local examples in Hamworthy alone, and you've probably all got them. The Sidmans timber site has been left to rot. It's a magnet for fly tipping ASB and a visible reminder of inaction. The old James Brothers scrapyard site has been derelict for years. No development, no benefit to the community, no end in sight, an ugly blot on the landscape. And most significantly, the former power station site, prime waterfront land that should have delivered homes, jobs, and regeneration. Instead, it's a fenced-off wasteland, the promise of progress lost in delay, and speculations and issues around viability. While families wait for homes, while young people can't afford to stay in the communities they were raised in, these sites are hoarded and held, assets for developers, but liabilities for the people who live nearby. The motion simply asks us to be proactive, to audit what we've got, to assess what can be done, and to act using planning powers, enforcement tools, and where needed, compulsory purchase to bring these sites back into use for the public good. It aligns with our values to build affordable council and social homes. And it aligns with our duty as elected members to fight collectively for our communities, whatever the impacts on consecutive government settlements. I urge members to support this motion. Let's show that we are not here mainly to manage decline or tolerate delay, but to demand better and deliver on the basic needs for homes and residents that they can afford. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cooper. I've got Councillor Earl, but before that, Councillor Cooper, have you got a seconder? I understand Councillor Connolly was going to second. Councillor Connolly, do you wish to speak now? Thank you, Councillor. Right now, Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Chair. And apologies to Councillor Cooper for sending through the amendment very late. I wouldn't usually do that, so very gracious for you to accept it. I echo a lot of what you've put forward this evening and support the need for more affordable and social housing in our conurbation to meet the requirements of local people who have long been let down by the market and simply can't afford what's on offer. When I was preparing for the amendment, I had a look, and the cost of housing is around 10 times the average wage now, which is simply unattainable for a lot of people in our conurbation. As a Three Towns Alliance, we are working hard to deliver the Council's housing strategy following review, and also to focus on priority areas identified, including the Council New Build strategy and New Build housing and acquisition strategy, our regeneration sites, and working with registered providers to deliver new homes. We have a strong relationship with MHCLG and Homes England, and we're proud to have recently secured funding for 100% social housing at Hawkwood Road. Any land left to rack and ruin is a travesty when we have a high level of local needs. However, local government has been chronically underfunded by successive governments, and we can only work within our means and within the rules that have been afforded to us by central government. We have requested the government give us stronger powers to insist planning applications get built out. Indeed, many think that the planning process is the issue when it comes to deliverability, when in fact we have 7,500 consents on record which haven't been built, representing a significant net gain and yet no power to implement. There are significant challenges in the housing market with high build costs and high interest rates. Viability remains low, affecting both developers and the council. But through working with private partners and government bodies, we are an ambitious administration that is working to solve the issues that we can. Thank you for accepting my amendment, which I hope adds value and will lead to tangible results, and I'd ask Council to support the motion.
Thank you. Councillor Wilson to speak. Thank you.
Thank you for bringing the motion forward. I agree with what this motion is setting out to achieve, but I'm happy that Councillor Cooper, you've accepted the amendment from the leader, as this will hopefully make things a bit clearer and concise and help us to accomplish some of the outcomes that we are looking for. And the leader and Councillor Cooper have already said a lot of what I'd like to say. But in January, we will have a specific housing strategy steering group meeting looking into the area of housing delivery, which has cross-party attendance. And I'm sure that will be a really important session in unpicking some of the issues that we've described here tonight and within this motion. We already know, has been mentioned by the other two speakers, that the local housing market faces major barriers to developing brownfield sites, mainly due to the high construction costs and interest rates. And some of these really high construction costs are down to the fact that we've lost nearly £250,000 workers within the construction sector since 2008, which is a really shocking statistic to me. And I think it's something that we really need to develop quickly as a country. Consequently, some of the projects with planning consent are stalled and developers often don't deliver the required affordable housing as a result. And this isn't unique to us as an area. And also, registered providers, such as ourselves as councils, struggle with these financial hurdles and insufficient grant funding. However, as a council, we have sites that are currently under construction and that will be complete in 2026, providing us with nearly 150 affordable homes in the form of the Hillbourne School site, Templeman House and Surrey Road. So some really important progress is being made, but more can always be done. So hopefully this proposed scrutiny and reviewing of what we are doing will be an important way of ensuring we are getting the most out of the resources we have. So really happy that this motion has been brought forward and really happy to support it. So thank you, Councillor Cooper.
Thank you. Councillor Trent.
Just wait a second. There you go.
All right. Thank you, Chair. The whole issue is one which I think needs some major and quite sweeping government legislation. The one thing I really find grating, and I've lobbied the local MP about it, and that is the fact that a site can gain planning permission and can sit there empty for years and years and years. Look awful. You know, there's one just as you enter Poole, and that is grating on everyone's nerves who drives past it. You know, it's sitting there waiting to be built out. Went through all of the planning things to sort of get it built, and it's still sat there not being built. And I do think that the government needs to look at possibly changing the legislation on that, and also maybe looking at things like compulsory purchase legislation, so that if someone leaves a site empty and undeveloped, it should perhaps be able to be compulsory purchase for less than it would, you know, have done otherwise. Because I do think that we really need to get to grips with this problem. As I say, it annoys people, it annoys me, and it's something that just does need sorting, and we shouldn't just kind of let developers use the whole system. Well, they play the system basically, and I think the figure I think Millie mentioned 7,500 unbuilt houses. That's a pretty good part of our housing target. I did suggest to planning officers last week when we met them about the local plan, is there a way that we can count the unbuilt developments that are permitted but not built as part of our target, you know, to ease the pressure on, you know, getting into that system. But we really do need to do something about it, and it needs tough and rather dramatic government changes to the regulations so that we can actually get something done about this problem, because it is, well, it's irksome to say the least. I'm trying not to swear. Right, okay.
Thank you, Councillor Trent. Councillor Farquhar.
Thanks, Chair. Sorry for the pause there while we're waiting for the light to go red to be live. I very much appreciate the amendment, and I really appreciate the fact that the administration is embracing this substantive motion as it is now. Because this is, for all ward councillors in here, we can all name sites within our particular wards whereby, to Councillor Trent's point, you despair of anything happening. I really appreciate Councillor Wilson's input that the Housing Strategy Group is meeting in January. And I think something which is missing from this motion, but hopefully will be picked up by that strategic group and then on to the overview and scrutiny, is that there are so many properties which, for instance, in my ward, we've got the Christchurch Road, what used to be from Boscombe Precinct to Folkestone Station and down Folkestone Hill, used to be referred to as the Golden Mile. We're going back a couple of decades now, when the last time that it had anything golden attached to it. But above those, that shopping precinct, above that, those outlets for small traders, there are properties, there are housing, there are flats, there are units, as the industry describes them. But for the owner and the landlords of those particular locations there that were designed in the Victorian age to house people, they're just a line on a spreadsheet. So they're left to be neglected. In some cases, the roofs have fallen in, they're not habitable, and others, where they are habitable, they're actually of such a low grade. So I'm hoping that the strategy, the strategic housing group, will actually look at the fact that we actually have, in a lot of our precincts, housing available to us at a viable cost for bringing it back into speed rather than a new build, that we can actually look to as well as the prime sites which we mentioned here, the large sites. So let's not forget that we actually have absentee landlords and owners that actually only consider the value of a property as a line on a spreadsheet, and actually bring some pressure to bear to bring that back into the purpose it was originally built for, in my particular case, in the Victorian age, so that people can get housing and get affordable housing. It might be a little bit more work for the owner and the landlord, because they'll actually have to go through the regulations of actually providing housing of a suitable standard to people, rather than something which is just a line on a spreadsheet, but is actually a building which could be used to actually house people and provide a home. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Farquhar. Councillor Butt.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I believe this is very much twofold. Kieran, you touched on Hilborn. Now, Hilborn was started in 2017. I went to the first exposition in the local community centre about what was going to happen there. So we're now 8 years, and we still haven't quite finished it. So to say that council building's fairly glacial, I think is an understatement, but it is the nature of the beast, because we have to be so careful, we have to have so many checks and balances, and everything has to be absolutely in line. So we're fighting against that all the time. We also have to be looking at the situation with regard to, George has touched on private housing, on our own voids. What is that situation at the minute? It's never very good, and we're not incredibly quick at turning those voids round. Again, an infrastructure and a staffing issue, because do we have the bodies to do it? And then we move on to the land that we do own, and it's just not, at the minute, viable for us to be developing, because, as Kieran says, we don't have the builders, we don't have the people who want to invest. So it really is a tricky situation. I think it's the situation is so dire that I really do support taking this up to the Minister and making it quite clear that actually we've had enough example time to show how poor it is. You can use Hilborn if you want. It takes 8 years to build 150 houses. Whereas private developments do tend to be a bit quicker. I've got one in Roberts Lane, which is 42 properties, which is 3 years down the line and soon to be completed. So there is that comparative there. So I'd certainly support this motion, certainly the amendment, but I think there's a bit more to it. And it can be expanded. It's not just about affordable housing. It moves on to other matters. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Butt. Councillor Connolly, you reserved your right. Would you like to speak now?
There you go. Yes, thank you. I think a lot of what I want to say has already been said, particularly by my ward colleague, Councillor Farquhar. Now, the leader met with me back in 2023, visiting Folkestone, and we looked on Christchurch Road at a number of properties, and the Folkestone Neighbourhood Plan Steering Group showed you the properties, and I want to refer to their really, really hard work in pushing to keep Christchurch Road and Seabourne Road and those properties, the commercial properties that are keeping that vibrant, keeping it bustling, keeping it going. Because we all know it doesn't take very many empty properties for there to be a critical mass which really changes the whole tone of the high street. So they are really, really anxious about these empty properties and stopping them from remaining empty for a long period of time. And the engagement from the landlords is appalling. As Councillor Farquhar said, so many properties are just a line on a spreadsheet. And there really isn't much interest in what happens with them. So we talked at the time about the challenges around that and the possible use of compulsory purchase orders. And we talked a little bit about the possibility of an overarching strategy for that. Now, I know there are huge challenges in using that, but I think, as many councillors have said, we really are at quite a difficult situation, and we need to be quite bold in the use of them and really take that on. So I hope this motion is part of that, trying to be bold in tackling these problems. So thank you very much for the support.
Thank you, Councillor Connolly. Councillor Cooper, can you reply to the debate? Thank you.
Really pleased what I've heard. And I suppose I'll just sum up and say, can we be bold? If we're in agreement that we need to tackle the issue, can we be bold? Now, I'm not a man who deals with money or understands fiscal rules. Well, I kind of do. The political economy and how your politics governs the way you spend money. I get that. But we need to take a bold step. In the housing motion we put forward when I first became a councillor here, put a motion forward, which in that we suggested that we might look at our pension funds that are sitting there. There's a lot of money. It's been managed by experts and people who are really good. There's people in this room that are really good at that. And I just wonder if we can actually sit around the table. I mean, in my world, as Councillor Cox, in Peter's world, once he said, in my world, I'd like this council, hopefully with bold new leadership, to take a risk and become its own developer, to take a piece of land, look at the legal implications of compulsory purchase, see how we can use the pension funds of what public service workers have been paying into for decades. To take that risk, take a bit of land, become our own developer, build some houses, sell them, rent them, and bring the money back in to us. Oh, that seems a little bit Walt Disney-esque, doesn't it? But in my world, those sort of things would happen. So thank you for supporting the motion, but I just hope it doesn't go into the ether and sort of bubbles under with all the fiscal pressures that we are under. So it's a bit of a challenge there, really. I'm happy to sit on a board and advise how you spend money. That would be great. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Cooper. Spending money, it seems a good idea. Members, we've had a good debate on that. Do we have consensus on accepting? Agreed? Thank you. Thank you. That's a consensus for accepting. Councillor Cooper, thank you very much. And Councillor Connolly. Number 3 on my list is managing seasonal parking pressures. Councillor Connolly, I understand you're requesting an amendment to this original motion. And can you explain the reason for the request? And then we can determine the request without debate. So, Councillor Connolly, I'm calling you again.
Yes, thank you. We put forward this motion back in June, and at the time there was various amendments put to us, which we were going to accept. And so it's that amended motion which is here in the paper.
Yes, I was just checking that everybody's got copies and we all know about that. Members, are we in agreement with that before we start? Yes, agreed. Right, Councillor Connolly again.
Great, thank you very much. So the issue here is seasonal parking challenges at our seafront, which we all know about. So we drafted this motion back in June to come up with a constructive way forward in response to the administration's parking consultation on that was proposing paid on-street parking for up to 1 kilometre away from the seafront. So residents were quite opposed to that proposal based on what I've seen from communications from residents. So I don't plan to spend time on it other than to say thank you to the administration for listening to what residents were saying about that and withdrawing the plans. And I hope those ideas can be put to bed. Now, since then, I noticed we've also had the government's agreement to hold a trial for higher parking fines for illegal parking, which took place over the summer. And I particularly wanted to mention thanks to my local MP, Tom Hayes for his work on that in Westminster. I know he was involved in doing that, as I'm sure others were. So now part of this motion is to recognise that, like many of the problems we have to tackle, it doesn't have one solution alone, and a number of tools are needed. So I think the motion is relatively self-explanatory. It tries to bring together a number of strands that need looking at to come up with a cohesive plan. A few points to make. I think it's really important that there's councillor engagement as we go through this. A lot of us spend a lot of our time as councillors hearing about parking problems and the parking challenges in our wards. And I think we can bring an awful lot to the discussions on how to help with that. For example, before the consultation went out, I'd already been in discussions with officers about potential changes to the traffic regulations about the seafront, parking along the cliff top there, Boscombe Overcliff. So a few of the things that I think we really need to tackle are set out in this motion. I look forward to hearing your views on it. I want to make one final plea, which is for consideration for a park and ride to be looked at sincerely. Now, I know that it's not going to be viable to have a permanent park and ride set up as we have in Winchester or Oxford, but I do believe that some sort of temporary arrangement for the summer could be workable. I think residents across BCP and visitors coming to our beach deserve to be able to get to the seafront, and oftentimes a car will be needed. So I think we really need to try to make visiting and accessing our beach a positive experience for those coming to the area and for those living nearby. And I think we can do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I believe your seconder is Councillor Moriarty, is that right?
Right, I'm happy to second this motion and I reserve my right to speak.
Thank you, Councillor Moriarty. Members, do we have a debate on this? Who wishes to speak? I haven't got anybody here as yet, surely. Yes, Councillor Rigby.
Thank you, Chair, so I might as well kick it off, mate. So, yeah, generally I'm in favour of this motion. I think it's something which really needs looking at, and one of the amendments which I did ask is that the word seasonal was dropped from it, which it has been in some parts, because a lot of what we face as ward councillors isn't the headline grabbing 3 weeks of the year when parking goes crazy at the seafront, like we all know. I get faced with residents telling me there's parking issues every single day in my ward, and they've got the same reasons for giving this to us, and generally it's there's not enough street parking, and the reason there's not enough street parking is a mix between businesses using the roads as an extension of their businesses, so garages leaving cars outside, leaving them there for many days, car showrooms who will come and leave them in different places and let them sit there, and various other things which are left on roads. So I think we need to take a more holistic approach than just looking at seasonal, and I think with what's in this motion and asking TAG and the various overview and scrutiny boards to do that, we can do. But there's pieces of legislation which we could already be using, which I don't think are used properly. For example, if people are selling cars on the road, they're only allowed to have so many within a certain distance of each other. And if they have more than that, then they can be fined. However, the legislation is only about if you've got a price in the window. And who puts a price in the window anymore and doesn't put it on Auto Trader or Gumtree or wherever it is. So this needs to be pushed forward and changed to the modern day so that people who have got 5, 6, 7 cars sitting on a residential street can have something done about it, not just we can't do anything unless the vehicle isn't taxed or MOT'd. I think that's probably about it, to be honest with you. I just want to make sure that it doesn't just focus seasonally, because seasonally is 3 or 4 weeks. It's every single week for most of the people who live in BCP, and that's what we should really be focusing on. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rigby. Councillor Herritt.
Goes automatically now, doesn't it? Brilliant. We're happy to support this motion as amended, not least because several parts of this work are already underway. Councillor Rigby is exactly right on strategy that needs to be kind of considered in the round. As we know, displacement is a really key factor in parking, and there's so many factors to consider. It's a key component of the LTP4 work. That is out for consultation right now. I would encourage all councillors to be sharing that with your residents and feeding back in. It also has park and ride as a consideration. I do think that it's really important that we also note that several levers that government could pull right now to make these things happen are already available or not available to us. Parking enforcement by camera was removed in 2014. Pavement parking essentially remains illegal unless you go through a costly process of TROs everywhere. The TRO process itself is expensive, unwieldy, involves very expensive adverts in the local press, and parking fines remain at the level established in 2008. Except, obviously, this summer we've had that trial for fines. I think we need to recognise everyone's efforts. I think Tom Hayes definitely did get it over the line, but we've been lobbying for years collectively to try and make that happen, from former Conservative and current Lib Dem MPs and leaders as well. The DFT are in town this week, in fact, to discuss the impact of that trial with our officers. There will be a report to the DFT in due course that will, of course, be available to everyone in this room, and will be published because we will be taking it to Cabinet and scrutiny as well. And I spoke to the bus company just today, and they've got data showing they had significantly improved reliability through the period. So that alone is a really nice result, which brings me nicely on to Park and Ride. As mentioned, being retested through LTP4 at the minute, I should express some caution though. Everywhere that Park and Ride has succeeded, it's worked by making parking beyond it more expensive and more restricted. And ultimately, who is going to add the hassle and cost in the Park and Ride, regardless of how seamless we could make it, when free parking awaits beyond it? The King's Park Park and Ride in 2002 lost £46,000 in a 13-week period, generating a total of £8,000 in income. Heavily promoted down the Wessex Way, just off, buses down to Boscombe Seafront, on social media and radio too. And obviously there was one run in the Sandbanks area the year before, and obviously there's the Creekmore Park and Ride, which remains as it is. The problem is not how many spaces there are, but where they are located. If they're not located within a stone's throw of the breach, every one of those red days, hundreds of spaces are just a short walk inland. The need to seek alternative solutions is welcomed, but we also have to found them in reality. To be clear, I think it's really important that we examine and lay out to the public Park and Ride options and implications. There is always a trade-off, but to make a Park and Ride viable, those trade-offs may not be palatable to our local residents. The motion also calls for changes to parking in certain areas. Absolutely willing to examine these, but parking is service, and although it's a net contributor to our budget, as with all areas, it's under increasing pressure in terms of budget. As ever, happy to meet and hear from all members regarding concerns as we move that parking strategy work forward.
Thank you, Councillor Herrick. You were only just a little bit over there, but well done. Councillor Farquhar.
Thank you, Chair. I welcome the Chair of the Environment and Place Overview and Scrutiny Committee looking at this proposal and the outcome from the parking trial and the other feedback. But Councillor Rigby touches on something which is important to us all as councillors here, is that a fair amount of casework is that sort of feeling of injustice as regards being able to park within a reasonable space of their home. We've all come up with solutions that will actually help individual residents that have actually approached us, such as disabled parking bays, permit bays. That's a great help, you know. But I'm very wary of saying, well, the solution is to charge for on-street parking, particularly as a counter to Park and Ride, because as Councillor Rigby points out, is that this should not be a seasonal strategy. I've got a good fortune that I've got one of the seaside wards over there in Boscombe East and Folkestone, and yes, we have a seasonal issue, but we had the hysterics from a variety of sources as regards it's parking mayhem. You can't move. We're the worst congested, and it's all down to these day trippers. But in reality, for most of us that are outside of Bournemouth Central, that is just a seasonal thing. It's on a few summer weekends whereby it's hot enough and people say, let's spend a day at the beach. The solution is not to charge parking a few streets in from the coast for everybody. That's not the solution. But to have a justice and a feeling of what's right, as Councillor Rigby says, so that we actually use the legislative powers that we have. I think as all as councillors, we've all been told that our devolved powers for our CEOs, etc., our civil enforcement officers, we don't have the ability to do this. And this is the justification, or should I say, this is the grizzle, which I think a lot of us have from our residents. I just had a call just this morning from a developer on one of my avenues which actually runs perpendicular to the seafront, about vans, about converted mobile homes and converted vehicles. And they said, what's your view on that? I didn't know this individual came from an unknown number. And I said, my view is live and let live. If they're not causing you a problem directly, such as antisocial behaviour, such as taking your parking space or blocking your drive, then live and let live. And I think that should be the solution, rather than paid for parking on street, but to use the powers which are possible to actually get rid of those issues. So the sort of issues which I'm talking about in my ward are those that hoard classical cars that are just left to rot on the actual highways. So that's all I had to say, Chair, but I will be supporting the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Carr-Brown.
Thank you very much, Chair. Others have said some of the things that I would have said, particularly about the ongoing issue of businesses parking their vehicles in roads. That certainly affects my ward. The thing I wanted to particularly raise for the whatever we do on this, however the work develops on this, whether, you know, strategies and feasibility studies, whatever we do, that we have to keep in mind the expansion of AFC Bournemouth at the same time. And we, certainly for my ward and many wards nearby, the effects that that will have on our parking and our traffic flows is another order of magnitude as well. And that's ongoing, that's 9 months a year. And I absolutely wholeheartedly welcome the expansion of AFC Bournemouth, but I just wanted to raise it as part of this to bring it into everybody's minds while we are discussing all things parking and traffic flow.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Challoner.
Thank you, Chair. I absolutely support this motion. I think it's a really good idea. We do need to review consultation processes such as this flawed parking consultation that went out, which caused great alarm, and we were very quickly told that actually the recommendations in it are not supported by the administration, which does make you wonder why they were put out there to alarm our residents in the first place. Anyway, I do support the motion. I think it's a really good idea. I would like to stress that actually, yes, there are parking issues for lots of our residents in our wards all the way through the year, but there are some real seasonal hotspots. My ward in particular has that. In fact, we're gridlocked at certain times, in so much as, despite the best efforts of our council officers and the team that are out there doing a lot of hard work at those peak times, people will happily wait for 3 hours in their car in the hope that there is a space available, and it's just ludicrous. So I'm really hopeful that when we have this proper review, that a suitable traffic management plan will be looked at and put in place for Camfrey Cliffs and for Sandbanks. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Challoner. Councillor Andy Martin, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just very briefly, I wanted to echo and support the motion for a start, but also pick up what Chris Rigby was saying earlier on about this being an all-year-round problem, not just a seasonal problem. I know it's been said by others, but it just particularly struck me because when I saw the words illegal, dangerous and inconsiderate, it just reminded me of what I can see in our ward, outside the schools, every single day in term time. I've said it before, and I think I said it when we had the debate about motoring earlier, a few months back. It is appalling, and I'm really surprised we don't have more accidents in and around our schools, and I'm sure it's the same outside every single school across BCP. I can only speak from my own experience. It is terrible. And the irony of it is that the people who are causing these problems by dangerous, inconsiderate and illegal parking around the schools are indeed the parents themselves. Not just when they're there, but on the way, when they're dropping the children off or picking them up, and then in many cases driving away at 50, 60 miles an hour. Absolutely incredible. And the other reason for speaking was I had some personal experience with this Monday and Tuesday of last week. We had a slight problem with a crossing patrol absence in one of our roads, which some of you may be familiar with. It's called Hintonwood Avenue. It's a really long, straight road. It's a typical road where you've got problems because you've got trees along it, you've got roads coming in, and you've got undulation. Anyway, I went down there on the Monday morning, realising that there was no school crossing patrol there, and I just stood by the near the crossing, not engaging with any of the children, just being there, not in any official capacity, really just as a resident. So I didn't have any official status. And I was absolutely staggered by the number of children who waited by the side of the crossing, the pink crossing with the bollards either side, and cars just going straight through, not even stopping, not even slowing down. And actually, as a motorist, you realise how dangerous the roads are. If you're standing by the side of a road and watching it, it's even more dangerous. And the thing that really struck me was that I saw people taking their kids to school, driving around, and then coming back, and it was the parents who were shooting through the crossing without stopping for the kids who were crossing. Really appalling. And I think it's just to echo the fact that this is probably a massive problem across BCP, and that we really need to focus on that as well, and stop people who are taking their children to school being absolutely self-obsessed and putting lives in danger, and the lives of their own kids and the lives of others. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Martin. Councillor Salmon.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to say a couple of things with two slightly different hats on. The first one being as the Chair of the Overview and Scrutiny Board, because the motion does refer to asking the board to undertake a review of the recent consultation that happened over the summer, and that was been mentioned already, just to make sure that members are aware that because of the delay in terms of talking about this motion, that's already something that we have taken on board. We had already a consultation working group open over the summer, which we've kept open, and we will be. We're actually meeting again tomorrow for the first time in a couple of months, and so that's been picked up already by the board. The other thing I wanted to say is that I'm happy to support this motion. As far as it goes, it's fine, but it is so important that we remember when we're talking about anything to do with transportation. If we're only talking about cars, we're missing such a huge amount of what's going on, and we must talk about how we reduce car usage where possible. And modal shift is so important, and that, speaking from a background with working in transport for a local authority and a university in the past, and I think Richard touched on the LTP4, and of course there's a lot of good stuff in that, but we mustn't ever talk about parking in this just siloed way, as though we just have to accept the amount of cars that are on our streets and parked on our streets. There are lots of other alternative things that we need to be looking at to improve the transport system in BCP. So I just wanted to put that into the debate as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Judy Butt, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I think the person who said that this isn't broad enough, I think it was Councillor Rigby, with regard to seasonal, is quite right. And of course, this opens a whole can of worms, doesn't it, with regard to parking per se. Parliament, as we know, or most of us will know, that as of September 25, we've got the new parking bill. And it's passed its first reading in the House of Commons, and it's raising the possibility of bringing the rest of England into line with London, who of course don't allow pavement parking. And if we think about it, how many people park on a pavement near you selfishly and you can't get by, okay? Now think of the fines that we could slap on these people for acting in such a way. So it's a good quid pro quo. So I hope that anything that is considered will be considered in light of this bill, which hopefully will be coming to a parking fine near us sometime next year if they get a move on. We've also got the issue that Councillor Martin raised. And I have two schools. I have a grammar school and I have a primary school, Hilbourne and Poole Grammar. And the parking outside of those is absolutely derisory, and I'm absolutely certain everybody in this chamber will have the same. And you get people in Chelsea tractors who park outside. They just block the whole of Soapers Lane from 8 o'clock in the morning till 9 when they leave the last. And the same with Hilbourne, and that's in Kitchener Crescent, and they're blocked off. So if we were to consider a more wider, I think, gambit and a wider strategy with regard to parking, I think, again, Councillor Rigby mentioned it shouldn't just be seasonal. Our approach should be looking at the whole thing. Obviously, we do have poor Councillor Challoner and Councillor Wright's issues with regard to sandbanks and how they are bugged up during those peak tourist areas. But if we are going to start looking at this, which is very timely, let's look at it in the light of the pavement parking bill, and hopefully this council can have some remuneration for people's crass stupidity. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Butt. Councillor Moriarty, you reserved your right to speak. Would you like to come in now, please?
Thank you, Chair. I'm quite happy that we've had quite a robust discussion about this, and I don't need to say anything more.
Thank you very much. Well, in that case, Councillor Connolly, can you reply to the debate? Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much for everybody's support. I do believe that this can be a really useful piece of work and really make a difference. I completely take on board your point about it not being seasonal. It's not all just about those summer weekends. And I thought about this when we were drafting it, but if I had to include all of the problems related to parking in my ward, this piece of work, you know, the list of problems would be the length of my arm. There's so many problems around parking. But I think you're quite right. It shouldn't just be about those summer weekends. So I really hope that this piece of work taken on will strike that right balance between focusing on these peak periods, but also touching on all of the other areas that really need looking at. And I think schools is a really good one. That is a terrible problem in our area around Folkestone. There's a number of schools. And there's also a lot of blocks of flats have been built in recent years without inadequate parking provision. There's a lot of building work that's happened under the promise of better public transport, and there won't be as much need for parking spaces, and then that didn't necessarily materialise, and we've got some terrible problems. We've had a university that is, well, a college has become a university in the middle of my ward, and again, huge numbers of parking need, which is really, really welcome, but huge pressures. So I really, really hope that this review focuses on the seasonal pressures, but also make sure it touches on all of these other issues. I know that the schools parking team is working a great amount on this, certainly on the schools in our area. So I really hope that there's a strong link there. And to Councillor Farquhar's point about vans, van dwelling on the Overcliff Drive has come up with residents talking about this, and I totally take on board that as a point, which is one of the reasons why the motion refers to our previous motion on van dwelling, and tries to come up with links there to make sure that it's thought about holistically. We're not just saying, no, you can't park here. We're thinking about, well, where can you park? Where's better places to park? Let's do this hand in hand. And then to your point, Councillor Salmon, about encouraging other use of transport, I completely agree. And this is one of the reasons I'm so in support of a park and ride scheme. You know, if you think about people coming to the area, let's try not to make them drive all the way to the beach if they have to. Let's try and think about access to the beach. I would love to see better links from Folkestone Station straight to the beach in my area, and make that route more accessible and more pleasant for people to come to. So very much supportive of that. So I hope this motion, the whole point of it is to be constructive, try and bring all these strands together and come up with something useful at the end of it. And I think I will pause on that. Thank you very much, everyone. Cheers.
Thank you, Councillor. Well, we've had a very good debate on that. I think we've all got our horror stories, and we've heard a lot of them tonight. Members, again, have we got a consensus in accepting this? Agreed. Thank you very much, members, and thank you to the councillors who put this to us. Right, item 4, standing up for children with additional needs. I have Councillor Kate Salmon who wishes to put this motion. Councillor Armstrong, you're indicating. Oh, sorry, are we all indicating? Councillor Armstrong first.
It's just to declare an interest. I work for an organisation that delivers services to young people with SEND and is partly commissioned by the council to do some of that work. So I'm going to leave the...
And Councillor Ad.
Likewise, I've got an interest. I look after a child with special educational needs and she's awaiting an ECHP, so should I leave as well, do you think? Can I ask for some advice?
I'm going to ask the monitoring officer for that guidance.
Councillor, I think you're okay to stay. I think that's a common issue. You've declared it for transparency purposes, but you would be permitted to stay at this time.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Gillian Martin is indicating. Thank
I
you.
also work with children with SEND needs as well, but I don't feel predisposed to make any decision either way because of that. But I'm happy to leave if you wish me to.
Thank you, Mr. Watson. Is that okay?
As for the councillor, if you're in the same position as the councillor who worked for an organisation that's linked to SEND, then that's a decision you have to ponder with the use of the flow chart. I wasn't entirely sure what your declaration was. Apologies. Could you just repeat it so we can try and assist?
I work at a local college as a lecturer. College lecturer.
It would be advisable you do, in accordance with the procedure, do declare the interest you have done and then leave the chamber for the debate and the voting, please.
Councillor Moriarty, you're indicating.
Hello, I think I may have to leave as well because I also teach people sometimes who have SEND, and I suspect, as do all teachers and college lecturers, that's every teacher in the room.
Crazy.
No.
Chair, thank you, Councillor. I appreciate it's difficult. The issue is, of course, if you declared it as a pecuniary interest as an employer, then it would be right in accordance on making a decision as we are now for you to follow the same route, I'm afraid, and to declare it as you have and to leave the chamber for the debate and voting.
Okay. I do feel that it won't impact my decisions. I don't actually have any financial interest in it as such. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Well, you got it.
I have to.
Councillor Farquhar, have you got a point of order?
I'll raise the part of the piece of paper that gives numbers, etc. Sorry, Chair, just for clarification, I think I misheard the Deputy Monitoring Officer there said that if you were an employer as a pecuniary interest, I think these individuals which have stood up are actually employees. So can we just get clarification if it applies to employees rather than an employer of those that work with SEND children? Thank you.
Councillors, I'm just going to say before the monitoring officer answers, we've known that this is coming up. We could all have tried to check whether or not we were having a conflict of interest prior to the meeting.
So for clarity, if it is an employer of one of the councillors that's going to be involved and benefit from any result from the voting, for example, then that would be an interest you would declare and you would be required to leave the chamber for the voting and the debate. One of the difficulties of making decisions on the hoof, of course, is that it remains a matter for councillors. We can only advise and guide, but on the face of it, an employer receiving a benefit as a result of this debate and voting in accordance with the flow chart would be required to leave and for the purpose of the debate and voting.
George, you haven't got a lot. Are you going? Oh. Sorry, I didn't mean to sound so happy about that, George. Don't worry. Councillor Salmon.
To your point, that it's been on the agenda for quite a while. I appreciate that, but from a member's perspective, we do get a I know there may be a problem with the change over the monitoring officers, but we normally get an exemption, such as when we're talking about beach huts, or we're talking about budget or council tax. Just a suggestion that perhaps when we're discussing SEND issues again, where we have, and I'm glad to see it, so many members that are actually involved in the education of SEND children, that exemption can be extended. I appreciate fully the pecuniary rules, but from the perspective of local democracy and for representation, it seems a little bit unfair that those that actually are involved with teaching and then are employed by either state or private organisations shouldn't be excluded to actually contribute to the debate for the benefit of their particular children. So that's just an observation. Thank you very much, Chair. Thanks for your indulgence.
Well, and can I just stick to my point, Councillor Farquhar, which is that we have all known that this is coming up and that could have been organised had it been possible. Mr Watson.
Assure all members it is possible to apply for an exemption in advance, and that would be the route I think, Councillor Farquhar, you're mentioning, and that would be the normal and encouraged route. And of course, all councillors are reminded it's their own duty. It's not something we can require as such, but it places duty on you to consider it, and we can only advise as we are at this moment in time.
Yes, Chair, I am. I'm going to read my speech as I wrote it, but so first, let me say that before I start, I want to say I did think about this quite a lot because I'm proposing the motion. First, let me say that although I don't have a formal interest to declare within the rules of the Constitution, and that's my considered opinion, for the sake of transparency, I would like to state that a member of my immediate family has an education, health and care plan, and that we're also an adoptive family. To my mind, I'm therefore bringing this motion from a place of some significant lived experience, and that is valuable. And I am a little frustrated that people have been excluded from the debate who probably have more to contribute than many, but never mind. So especially since this motion is not about funding, we talk a lot about the SEND funding crisis in this chamber and in many of our committees. And as we head into budget setting for the next financial year, we all know that the DSG deficit is the single biggest financial threat facing BCP Council. I believe everyone in this chamber is rightly concerned about this and understands the seriousness of the situation. My observation over the last couple of years is that sometimes all the talk about the financial pressures overlooks or sidelines what's really at the heart of the issue, and that is the children and the families of the children with additional needs. The point of this motion is to re-centre those children and those families so that when we discuss the financial pressures and make the difficult decisions, we always remember what we're really talking about. The motion asks primarily for a meeting with parents, carers and young people affected by the funding crisis. This will be an opportunity for them to share their views, their concerns and their experiences with their political representatives, who can most effectively advocate for them to the government at this critical time. Alongside the well-known SEND funding crisis, I have included another serious but far less well-known issue, which is that of the recent cuts to the Adoption and Special Guardianship Support Fund. This fund, administered nationally, but accessed via regional and local agencies on behalf of families, is an absolute lifeline for hundreds of care-experienced children and young people in BCP. In April this year, the amount of funding available to each eligible child was suddenly reduced by almost half, leaving many families without access to vital services and therapies. The fund was introduced in 2015 in recognition of the fact that care-experienced children need long-term support to recover from early life trauma, the trauma of neglect, abuse and family breakdown. That remains true.
Councillor Salmon, you're over your time. Are you going to wind up?
Yes, as quick as I
Thank
can,
you.
sorry. That remains true, and yet the fund has been slashed without warning or consultation. The effect has been immediate and profound on some of the most vulnerable children in our communities, children who by definition have already been catastrophically failed and who we simply cannot and should not fail for a second time. So by bringing these two issues together, I hope this motion will enable a really fulsome conversation about the challenges faced by families with children who have additional needs, whatever those may be, and support our MPs to represent their interests in Parliament in the best possible way. Thank you. Sorry for running over.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Bull, I believe you're going to second.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I'm happy to second the motion. I reserve my right to speak. I would like to join Councillor Salmon in for transparency, saying that I also have a member of my family with an EHCP, but I don't feel that this affects my taking part in the debate. Thank you.
Right, thank you, councillors. Councillors, do we have any debate on this, please? Yes, yes, thank you. Press the button, please. Councillor Carr-Brown first.
Sorry, I thought I'd better stand because we have an agreed amendment that's already been circulated to this motion. And that hasn't been mentioned. Yeah, so as everyone already has it, I just want to point out that we're amending in paragraph 3, we're adding a sentence. Most of our local MPs have worked tirelessly in Westminster to raise the profile of the SEND funding crisis and advocate for local families. And then in the council resolves section in paragraph 1, we've proposed to delete convenes within 3 months and substitute with asks the leader to convene, and then to delete everything after who are care experienced in the 3rd bullet point. And those amendments have been accepted and circulated.
Those amendments have been accepted, you're saying?
Yeah, that's
Councillor
correct.
Salmon, yes?
Okay. Yes. So as Councillor Carr-Brown said, that the amendment from the Labour group has been agreed and accepted by myself and Councillor Bull and circulated. So happy to accept that. Yeah.
Right. So I think, do we need to vote to accept the amendment, councillors? Have we all seen it? Yes. Okay. Thank you. Right. Councillor Carr-Brown, I just want to ask you who seconded the amendment. Was that
Councillor Cooper was seconding the amendment.
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Cooper. Are you pressing the button?
Motions. I just like pressing buttons. So yeah, I'm seconding the motion. I had a pet email during that moment. Thank you.
Proposed at a seconder, and we've accepted the amendment. So now we are debating the motion with the amendment. Is that right? Mr. Watson, yes, that's right. Thank you. So now I have a speaker on that ground, Councillor Bartlett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think the motion is offered with great intent, but I just struggle with parts of the motion. In particular, the council resolves at paragraph 2 to instruct the leader of the council and political group leaders to draft a joint letter to the Chancellor, etc. I'm not sure that the council is able to instruct group leaders. I believe that it's up to political groups to make their own minds up what they do, and that regardless of any instruction that may come from council, political group leaders would not be obliged necessarily to carry out that instruction. The second point is that whilst it's very well intentioned, I believe.
Bartlett.
Sorry.
Councillor Farquhar, is this a point of order, and if so, which one?
I do apologise, Chair. I don't know which number it is, but just for a point of clarification, that Councillor Bartlett is actually referring to the unamended motion rather than the substantive motion, and I wouldn't wish to cause confusion in the chamber. So I suggest that Councillor Bartlett gets his 3 minutes in full while he catches up on the amended motion that has been circulated.
Councillor Burton, would you like to come in?
Yes, Chair, and I think I'm going to add some extra confusion, I'm afraid. Yes, and because Councillor Bott was a bit quicker on the finger than me, because I also have an amendment to follow amendment that's been agreed. So I'm amending the amendment.
Would you like to, you're putting your amendment,
But
Councillor.
to add some extra confusion to that, there's two bits to my amendment. One bit has been accepted and one bit hasn't. I'm looking for some advice on that, how to deal with that.
Do we have copies of these amendments?
I
accepted and
emailed
not?
them out
Right,
just at the
okay,
beginning of the
so
meeting, just before the
everybody
meeting
who's
started.
looking at their emails at the moment, are they?
I'm quite happy to say what they are.
Yes, that's... Councillor Burton, are you, is this a third amendment or is this the amendment that we're talking about?
Well, this could be a third amendment or a third and a fourth amendment, couldn't it? If you see what I mean. Because that's what I'm asking for advice for, because the first, if I just say what the amendments are, I've said to add invite an appropriate minister to the meeting, and I'll explain why when we have the debate, which has been accepted, and everybody's quite happy with that, who's proposed the motion and amended it. The second bit is to remove the reference to care experienced young people, which hasn't been accepted, and the reasons have been explained to me why that is.
Sorry, Councillor Burton, I was just consulting a monitoring officer. In fact, I think I'm going to ask the monitoring officer to say directly to you, Councillor Burton, what he's just said to me. Would you mind, Mr. Watson? I'm sorry about this.
Apologies, Councillor. I don't know if I missed what you were saying. I was consulting with the chair, but the substantive amendment has been made once. I think you're now moving for a further amendment to that amended, yes. So you would then need to read that out as normal, and then we'd need consent of council to move that amendment forward. So we start from scratch, if that's an easier way of putting it.
Councillor Burton, yes, sorry, I didn't know you needed inviting to. Will you read out your amendment, please?
Right, just for my understanding in that case, because I say that the first part of the amendment is accepted, but the second part isn't. So if I then read it out and both of them are not accepted, does that mean the bit that has been accepted is not accepted?
If one,
I hope I make myself crystal clear.
Can I just try to clarify, please? One piece has been accepted, and I think that's fine. You are going to read out to us the bit that you think has not been accepted, so that we can
But I very
vote on it.
still, council has to agree that bit.
Yes, but you need to read it out,
Okay,
Councillor Burton.
so
This is the point.
purely bit that has been accepted is add to the invite list for the meeting to invite the suitable minister to the meeting.
Right, members, thank you.
Chair, I think we're there. Thank you for bearing with us. So I think the way to deal with this would be in two chunks. I think, Councillor, you are proposing, sorry for the confusion. So I think we need agreement or consent on your first part, and that can be debated or accepted as it goes. And I think then we need to stop, and then it's your second part of the amendment we then need to deal with. So I think it's a sensible way to deal with it.
So the first part that was agreed, we have agreed, and that has been accepted. Right. I've forgotten already. Councillor Burton, I hate to do this to you again, but can you tell us what the first part that was agreed of your amendment contained?
So that is purely the first part that's just been agreed. It is to add to the invite list for the meeting to invite a suitable minister. So to invite a minister to that meeting.
So, Councillor Burton, we've agreed that by consensus, we think. I did hear a few mutters. Thank you. And the mover has also agreed. Right. So it's the second part that we need you to read out, and we need to get agreement on that. So can you let us know what that is now, please?
It is, believe it or not, very simple. It's just purely remove and or care experienced young people. Okay, and the reason is, and I know we've had private discussion about this. I'm very keen to keep the idea of what SEND and care experience is totally separate. There are a lot of people with who are care experienced or in care who have SEND. They're quite a large of that population, but just because you are care experienced doesn't mean that you have SEND. Just like so, there's a lot of prevalence of it. But there's other factors that may be more likely to be SEND, and we're not asking for those people to come to the meeting separately. Now, I would personally expect, because I'm a corporate parent, as everybody is here, that we would invite people who have SEND, who are in care, but not just invite people who are in care who don't have SEND.
Right, thank you. So we've all got a copy of that, I hope, Councillor Burton. And do you have a seconder for that? Councillor Moore, can you press a button and come on, please? Sorry, I didn't mean come on in a rude sense. I just meant, you know, come online.
The second, Chair.
Councillor Moore. Right, members, is there any debate on this? I can't even remember which amendment it is, but yes, Councillor Burton's second amendment. Do we have any debate? So have we got consensus for accepting? Oh, Councillor Salmon.
Okay, so I think I'm now speaking about the second part of which is, yeah, okay. No, I'm sorry, I don't accept the amendment. As I said in my opening speech, I very deliberately included adopted and special guardianship families within the motion because they've been severely impacted this year by changes to the funding available to support them. And this has largely gone unnoticed by politicians at either local or national level. You will also notice that the name I gave to the motion was supporting children with additional needs. As an adoptive parent, I can say with some authority that care experienced children almost always have what one might term additional needs within that broader definition. I feel very strongly that the thrust of this motion is around getting parents and families together to talk about the issues that affect them, and that this should be inclusive of the families that fall into that category and the young people that fall into that category. And I very much don't want them to be excluded. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Salmon. Any other members wishing to speak on this? Councillor Cooper.
Okay, thank you. I agree with Kate on this one. I can't see why would we take people who are adopted and in those circumstances, surely they have special educational needs of some sort and the lived experience of families. We can't just keep separating out little groups and atomizing them. Sometimes we need to bring people together to get that shared experience. So I kind of will be brief on this one. I've worked with lots of adopted children, and they have a myriad of really complex needs, often overlooked because they don't fall into a kind of category, or parents might be a little bit ashamed of their children's behaviour and abilities, so they don't push them through the system or ask for help. And I really cannot, as children's services, I can't see as a ex-youth worker and a family man and children, young people and families, how on earth we can separate those two. And I still don't understand, Councillor Burton, your explanation, so forgive me, because often you talk a lot of sense, but on this one I choose to disagree, if that's okay, and support. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Macrow.
Thank you, Chair. I'm a little bit confused, actually, in the sense of what I should be voting for. But I need to put it on record that I thoroughly appreciate Councillor Kate Salmon's comments regarding kinship carers. I'm in fact a kinship carer, and I have a very close member with an EHCP. And let's put it this way, I commend you for raising this, regardless of what we're actually debating. So, on record, thank you, Kate.
Thank you. Councillor Ball, you reserved your right to speak. Do you wish to speak to this?
No, thank you, Chair. Just to say, I support Kate in the not accepting this amendment, if that's what you're asking.
I'm sorry, Councillor Ball. I suddenly had Councillor Moore pop up there before you, so I should have.
Yes.
Councillor.
Yes, thank you, Chair. At the risk of making everything worse, what I was trying to say was that what I think that Councillor Burton was trying to say, and I seconded because that's what I believed, it was we are including everybody. We haven't got to actually just name care experience people. If everybody that has SEND is included, that includes automatically anyone that's care experienced. That's how I'm seeing it. It's to actually include absolutely everybody who has special needs. Thank you.
Members, I have no more speakers on my list here, unless somebody else is going to press the button at all. I don't know whether to go to consensus or a vote. What do we think? We'll go to the vote, please. Thank you. Oh, who? Councillor. Oh, I'm so sorry, Councillor Burton. You're going to sum up.
Jane, I'm voting on the amendment to the amendment.
Councillor Burton.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I was rather hoping to just sum up on my amendment. It is really strange because I was trying to make things more simple, but I seem to have failed so badly here. Yeah. I mean, Councillor Moore. I mean, just summing up the debate, and I don't want to spend too much time on this because, as I say, I was trying to make things more simple. Councillor Moore has really said, and I'd just like to repeat what she said. What my point is that we want to include everybody who is SEND, but not add extra people in just because if they don't have SEND. Now, there's children who are on care experience, who have SEND, they should be there. There are other groups of people who are more likely to have SEND, like males, boys are more likely to be SEND than females. Certain ethnic groups are likely to be more SEND than other ethnic groups, and therefore putting a specific group of people in, saying extra, it is actually giving them, it's skewing the whole process. So what I would like to say is everybody who has SEND should be invited, but not add extra people on who don't have SEND.
Right, Councillor Butt, I'm going to ask Mr Dunn, the Chief Executive, to clarify everything. Thank you.
Thank you. And I will try. In terms of what this is a vote on the amendment that you've just debated, and I think what we're voting on, or you're voting on, is at the moment, the motion says children and young, so the council resolves to ask the leader to convene a meeting, etc., to include children and young people with SEND and or who are care experienced. That's what the substantive motion is. The amendment is that bullet point is revised to say children and young people with SEND and stop there. So the vote is whether to accept the amendment to reduce that bullet point to say just SEND. So that's what the vote is for.
Right, thank you so much, Mr Dunn. That does clarify very, very well. So members, we are now voting with our little machines here on that amendment as just explained. So can I ask you to vote, please? Members, have we all managed to cast our vote? Yes. Thank you. So we'll see. So we can see on the screen that was 4. As we see, members, that was carried with some against and some abstentions. Right, thank you very much. So that's the amendment carried. Now, members, any more debate on? Don't look at me like that, Councillor Butt. Yes. Members, do we have more debate on this? Councillor Harman.
It's not actually something that I'm contributing. I've been asked to share a statement on behalf of the Parent Carers Together Forum, who are the official parent carer forum for Bournemouth, Christchurch and Poole. And it reads, we fully support the motion on SEND funding and the DSG deficit. Financial pressures are real, but so are the consequences. Children excluded from school, lengthy delays in EHCPs, reduced access to therapies, and families caring 24/7 without respite. Services and schools are overwhelmed and underfunded. Behind every DSG account line is a child waiting for help and a family nearing crisis. The erosion of early intervention risks lifelong disadvantage and a dependency on adult services. We welcome cross-party work and ask that parent carers are meaningfully involved in all discussions. We live the impact of these decisions daily. We call for local transparency and strong national advocacy. Our children are not deficits. They are full of potential. SEND families must be at the heart of shaping recovery and inclusion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Burton.
Yes, I'm feeling that I might spoil things again, but no, I'm not. I just want to say that I am very supportive of this. Any form that we can get parents, young people, children, people who can make a difference to this end. I totally agree. The SEND system has a lot of work that needs doing to it. We've rehearsed this in this chamber many times. The getting people who are passionate about this together in a room can make a difference, and therefore I'm very, very supportive. I've already asked officers to be in touch with the parent carers groups. We have 2 of them, one official one and one unofficial one, to ask them for their support with this and actually organising it. You know, I know my amendment caused some confusion, but I don't want it to overshadow my support for this. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Burton. I think we all understand that. Councillor Carr-Brown.
Thank you. I just wanted to add that this is an incredibly important motion and we do support it, or I certainly do support it. An awful lot of work actually has gone on. Of course, this is a delayed meeting from the summer. An awful lot of work has gone on over the summer, particularly from our MPs. Roundtables have been convened. Education ministers have been spoken to. The leader has been written to. There's been correspondence with the leader. So our MPs in Bournemouth, for sure, and I'm sure further afield as well, have not sat on their hands at all on this issue as we anticipate the white paper that's going to come from the government. And equally, the Scrutiny Committee, Children's Scrutiny Committee that I chair, we spent 3 hours last night, a good portion of which was discussing this, and we will spend more time on it later in the year as well. There is, frankly, nothing closer to our hearts and to our values as councillors, as Labour councillors, frankly, as people. One of my children had an EHCP when he was at school. And at 25, he has just left home 3 days ago for the first time because that was the timetable he was on. So there are ongoing effects to people's lives, the early intervention, the current direction of travel to improve mainstream provision and to augment early provision is exactly what we need to be doing. That is supported by the Labour government and is certainly everything in this motion is supported by the Labour group here. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Carr-Brown. Councillor Bull, I did ask if you wanted to come back in. Did you wish to?
No, thank you, Chair. It's, just to say, it's very good to have the support of the Parent and Carers Forum. Thank you for showing that, Councillor Harman.
Councillor Salmon, do you wish to reply at all?
Thank you, Chair. So thank you, everybody, for bearing with the amendments and confusion. And broadly, I'm happy if, I would have preferred to leave that wording in, but there we are. Interesting to hear the statement from Parent Carers Together, because I consulted with them when I was writing the motion. So I'm glad they supported it, because they definitely did directly to me as well. Happen to know that they were quite keen on the angle around adopted and special guardianship families. So there we are. But yes, I urge you to support the motion as amended. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Salmon. Now we're going to go to the vote again with this. Members, I'm going to ask you to vote with your machines. Thank you. Members, have we all voted? Members, you can see on the screen the results of that. It is passed. Oh, that bit has disappeared again. I think there was one abstention, was there?
Two abstentions.
Two abstentions. Thank you, members. Now, item 5, which was preventing illegal party. I'm sorry. Oh, Councillor Farquhar.
3 members that didn't vote, can we invite them back in to continue with the meeting, please?
Yes, I'm so sorry, Councillor Farquhar. Was that what anybody else was going to say? Thank you. While they're coming in, I am going to tell you that in accordance with Procedure Rule 1413, the proposer and seconder of preventing illegal parking in the BCP Council area has requested that the motion is withdrawn. So I'm going to ask Councillor Herritt, would you briefly explain the reasons for that request? And then the Council will determine this without debate. Councillor Herritt.
The reasoning is there were 2 very similar motions on the agenda, so we worked with the Councillor Canavan at the time to amend the motion together and decided to seek to withdraw ours.
Members, are we agreed that that can be withdrawn? Thank you. Right. Prior to going on to questions, I'm going to ask for a little 10-minute break. Only 10 minutes this time, thank you. Well, I don't think 5 minutes gives all of us chance. Some of us have got
We're live.
Members, now we've got the live stream going, so can we move on to item 4, questions from councillors? And we've got 7 questions from 5 councillors. Supplementary questions are available for councillors to respond directly to the reply that the portfolio holder has afforded them, but these questions must be questions, not statements. They must emanate from the reply just given. And if it doesn't bring further clarity to the issue, then I'm going to stop any further dialogue on that. And in addition, the time limit for actually asking these questions and responding to a question is 3 minutes. And please note, where the original questioner is not present, the question will be asked on their behalf, but replacement questioners will not be able to ask a supplementary question. So, bearing all that in mind, I'm going to call first of all on Councillor Peter Cooper, who has a question to put to the Leader of the Council.
Thank you, Rhys Carter's-Key. Whilst welcoming the examination of the background of this development by the Audit and Governance Committee, it is also necessary to move forward. Therefore, could the Leader ensure that local councillors are kept fully involved and informed on the progress in resolving the outstanding issues? Also, will the Leader ensure that such updates are communicated effectively to offer reassurance to residents and to avoid misinformation and disingenuous commentary? Thank you.
Leader, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cooper. I can provide reassurance that officers are working on finding a resolution to bring and will bring a report later this autumn. In fact, I think it might be on the forward plan. I'll ensure the need to consult ward councillors over the next few months before we make any decisions. Thank you.
Councillor Cooper, do you have a supplementary? Thank you very much. Now, I have Councillor Patrick Canavan, who wants to put a question to Andy Hadley. He's not here. Does he have somebody who is putting that question, please? Councillor Moriarty, is that you?
Yes, thank you. So as creative industries, financial services and clean energy are all included as priority sectors in the government's industrial strategy. What steps have been taken to take advantage of this in BCP? In particular, the newly created Coastal Energy Partnership and the Dorset Clean Energy Supercluster create the potential for growth, for jobs and bringing down energy bills across our region. These initiatives could unlock significant investment, create green jobs and transform our region into a clean energy powerhouse. Can the portfolio holder outline how this administration is intending to help maximise this opportunity across our conurbation?
Good question. Councillor Hadley not being here, can I ask the Leader if she has anybody else who will answer?
Yes, I'm happy to answer on behalf of Councillor Hadley. Much of the detail on how we achieve the growth, jobs and energy bill stability reductions mapped out in our local energy action partnership, which the Council considered prior to the adjournment. The Coastal Energy Partnership is a strong collaboration to support this, built on earlier sharing of experience and knowledge amongst partners, and includes the universities and Bournemouth and Paul College. The college in particular is gearing up for sharing skills to support clean energy jobs, and Councillor Hadley was pleased to be involved in the launch of the new Green Energy Centre. We are also grateful for the help and support from our local MPs to date, and going forwards in promoting the value of investment in clean energy for our region. We hope to grow skills and attract investment to priorities you identify, and with partners through the Coastal Energy Partnership to build and promote a vision to maximise this opportunity.
Thank you very much. Councillor Mark Howell is not here. Is anybody putting his question for him? No. Okay, that question won't be put tonight then. Councillor Stephen Bartlett, I understand you have a question for Councillor Herritt Cabinet Member for Destination, Leisure and Commercial Operations on cycling speed limits on Bournemouth Prom.
Thank you, Madam Chair. All of the signs that specify a cycling speed of 10 miles per hour on Bournemouth Promenade have been removed and replaced with signs that say no cycling 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. July and August. Pedestrians have priority. Maintain courteous speed. Would the Cabinet Member for Destination, Leisure and Commercial Operations advise what the courteous speed is and how is it enforced? Also, would the Cabinet Member also advise why the original signs were removed and the cost of replacing them? Thank you.
Councillor Herriott, thank you.
Thank you for your question, Councillor Bartlett. The bylaw information signs relating to fires, barbecues, dogs and cycling have recently been updated and harmonised across our area. Previous signage was often outdated, inconsistent or incomplete. Bylaws related to cycling on the seafront do not specify a maximum speed, the limit of which may depend on the weather or promenade conditions, visitor numbers and a cyclist's ability or equipment. There are times when travelling at 10 miles an hour on the prom may be considered too fast, and as bikes are not fitted with speedometers, it is impossible for a cyclist to know their exact speed. The new signage advises cyclists to maintain a courteous speed, which allows them to take into consideration and account the conditions and apply consideration for other promenade users. The signs are clearly visible across the seafront, acting as a point of reference and enabling seafront rangers to enforce and advise visitors required. Due to the proximity to one another, they are very often easily pointed to. The cost of purchasing 325 new information signs and housings was £10,800, which equates to about £33 a sign, covering 10 miles of seafront. Anecdotally, despite much improved weather this summer versus last, I and the leader received much less in the way of correspondence on cycling on the prom this summer.
Thank you, Councillor Herriott. Councillor Bartlett, do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, I do, please. Yes.
Thank you.
Would the portfolio holder agree with me that to say a courteous speed is somewhat subjective? In my experience, courteous speeds interpreted by some people can be 30 miles an hour or even in excess of it. So we see a range between just a few miles an hour and 30 miles an hour on the seafront. Hardly enforceable with these signs, I'm afraid. Would you not agree with me that that is the fact? Thank you.
Sorry. As noted, you can't tell your speed on a bicycle from that, and applying a speed limit is nigh on impossible. 30 miles an hour would equate to the fastest ever speed averaged in the Tour de France stage. So I'm not sure we're going to see that on the seafront unless it's motor driven, and those bits of equipment are illegal anyway. But we do enforce, we do stop people. We've seen it in videos accidentally caught this summer. And as I say, it is about courteous speed, and we are reliant on people to apply those rules as they see fit and apply that courteous speed. Sometimes that's too fast, even at 10 miles an hour. But a speed limit not going to make a difference to the people doing 20 and 30 along there, even at 10 miles, even if that speed limit were 10 miles an hour.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Armstrong, I understand you have a question to put to Councillor Herriott on short-term lettings.
Yes, I do. Thank you, Chair. It is becoming increasingly evident that short-term lettings and Airbnb are having significant and multifaceted impacts on our local economy, community and housing market. And these impacts include a strain on housing supply, increased antisocial behaviour and pressure on council services as well, such as rubbish collection. Hoteliers and other accommodation providers are particularly affected, and as they adhere to strict regulations and incur substantial costs to ensure guest safety, unlike many short-term lets which exploit tax loopholes and avoid business rates. Given the current housing crisis, it is deeply concerning that the council appears to be slow to act on these matters. Therefore, I'd like to ask Councillor Herriott directly will the council form a cross-party and cross-sector task group to assess the impact of these short-term lets and Airbnb and identify solutions and propose regulatory actions similar to other areas? And if not, why not? When will our council initiate a short-term let register to list all short-term rental properties, ensuring that they align with national requirements and support local enforcement? What measures are being taken to ensure compliance of short-term lets, and when will zoning rules be implemented to regulate these lets? I'm coming to the end. What steps are being taken to improve collaboration between the council and the hospitality industry to address any disconnect and ensure that businesses of all shapes and sizes are included? The current situation urgently needs to change to support our local businesses and prevent further hotel closures, which lead to increased antisocial behaviour and additional pressure on council resources. And also, we need to address the ever-increasing gaps with the housing market. Thank you.
Thank you. We turn to Councillor Herriott. Thank you.
I've got it right this time. Councillor Armstrong, thank you for your question. It cuts across several portfolios of the council, and as ever with these things, seems to be left to me. I am regularly in contact with members of the hotel and tourist trade, recognise the challenges that they face. The availability of university accommodation is at a significant high, and private providers are seeking to use short-term letting to bolster income, not only in the summer, but now out of term, in term time as well. Airbnbs is a really good way for our residents to utilise spare space or extra rooms, but is a great example of where technology has overtaken regulation. The council is currently undertaking a stock condition survey to understand the demographic of properties in the conurbation, to include the number and locations of holiday lets. Holiday lets are a vastly unregulated premises type, and as it stands, no primary legislation can be used to regulate them. Our public protection teams will respond to issues relating to holiday lets that include enforcement on noise and ASB where appropriate, and our waste team will also engage around commercial waste provisions. The portfolio holder for regulation has lobbied the MPs for more robust legislation in relation to these property types, and the results of the stock condition survey will support the understanding of issues and needs around this. I'm supportive of the formation of a working group, but for me this is likely to best sit in overview and scrutiny. As a scrutiny request, they have the governance and resource to do so, and can hopefully find the time to do that deep dive required. Brighton and Hove Council have done a really good report and summary of a lot of the issues that you raise. I have a report to that, and I'll be happy to share with any councillors that wish to have it.
Thank you, Councillor Herriott. Councillor Armstrong, do you have a supplementary on this?
I really welcome the fact that you recognise the challenges that are being faced across the sector, and I appreciate the challenges as well of the fact that we are missing that important enforcement legislation. But our residents can't wait for Westminster. We do need to take some action, so I would like further information about what else can be done to try and speed this up. Thank you.
I spoke with Councillor Armstrong earlier this week about just this matter, and I believe we're looking to get a date in the diary to discuss just that, so we'll be happy to do so.
Thank you, councillors. Right. Councillor Cooper, I think you've got a question for the leader on planning application notices.
Thank you. Can the Cabinet Member for Planning explain why planning application notices are still routinely placed in inaccessible or inappropriate locations, such as high lampposts or railings where they are prone to being blown away or torn off by passers-by? And they're prone to, say, being blown away, and they're torn down or left unreadable due to small print and complex information. These practices significantly hinder public awareness and engagement, particularly amongst residents with visual impairments or mobility issues. Given the administration's commitment to listening to the communities it serves, what steps will be taken to ensure that planning notices are displayed in a more accessible, visible and inclusive manner, so that all residents have a fair say and an opportunity to engage with developments that may impact on their neighbourhoods? Thank you.
Leader, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cooper. Officers display notices in prominent locations, and by their very nature, site notices are displayed so that people can view and read the notice. Officers do their best to display the notice in an area where it is visible and often erect multiple notices for one site. Officers always try to place the site notices as close to the application site as possible, but clearly that is somewhat dependent on whether there is a lamppost or some sort of street furniture nearby. In most cases, we can normally put the site notice up very close to the application site, but we need to ensure that site notices are visible within the public realm. In terms of putting them up, officers use string attached to the site notices, and they are on waterproof paper. It means that, yeah, they can be ripped down if someone really, really wants to. And if you do see one that has disappeared, then I think it's important to raise that with planning. But they are pretty much the most sturdy that they can be in terms of the amount that we have to put up and the cost of actually putting them up and taking them down. I think that they are sufficient and proportionate. The font size used on the site notice itself is standard and has not changed for many years, and it is legible. Clearly, the council cannot be accountable for the site notice being ripped down from antisocial behaviour. I've just talked about that. It should be noted that legislation only requires the erection of one site notice, and there is nothing to state we must ensure that it has to remain in situ for the 21 days. And just to add to that, officers do take pictures of site notices once they're put up and upload them onto the planning site. And what I would suggest is that if you see one on a planning site and then see it's disappeared, then it might be worth contacting the planning officer just to let them know about that. Thanks.
Councillor Cooper, do you have a supplementary question?
Yeah, it's a good answer, but it doesn't really answer the question in terms of residents in walking in the streets when they're kind of really busy and they don't access the internet. There's been four examples of planning applications in my ward, and I'm not having a go at officers here. I need to be clear about that. I'm an officer's friend, having been one for God knows how many years. But there are still serious issues where people say, well, I didn't know that was going to happen. And then, you know, for some reason, it's their responsibility to read small
Councillor Cooper, is this a question? Or...
Yeah, it is. It's a question of saying that I don't think you've really answered the question in terms of accessibility and inclusion. Thank you.
I think that what you're saying is that residents have come to you and said, there's a planning application, but I didn't know anything about it. That doesn't necessarily mean that the site notice hasn't been visible or hasn't been there. In fact, I would say look at the planning site and see where the planning notices were. What I would also suggest is in my ward, where I have a contentious planning application or something that I feel concerned about, I actually put out letters to my residents to tell them about it and invite them to come and make representations at committee. And I think it's really important that as councillors, we do our bit as well, rather than just relying on officers to make sure residents are aware. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. Can I just come in on that? I know that it's not my place to add to asking a question, but you mentioned that the notices are taken down. Well, they're not. It's up to the person whose application it is to take them down, and they don't. So I just put that out there because I usually take them down when they are expired. Thank you. And thank you, Councillor Cooper. Councillor Armstrong, I think you've got a question to the Leader on neighbourhood plans and local government reorganisation. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. In light of the possible local government reorganisation through their community governance review within BCP, could the Leader of the Council provide assurances regarding neighbourhood plans and areas? Specifically, what guarantees can be given to ensure that all the work that's going on in Eastcliff and Springbourne to designate an area for the neighbourhood forum and subsequently deliver on a neighbourhood plan will be preserved and respected? Additionally, what actions will the Leader take to urge the government to continue funding the development of neighbourhood plans given the recent decision to withdraw such funds. The government has indicated that whilst direct funding for neighbourhood plans is being withdrawn, they will ensure that local planning authorities are appropriately funded for aspects such as neighbourhood plan examinations and referenda. How will this decision affect ongoing neighbourhood plans, and will the council still support their development? And if so, what will this support look like? Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Armstrong. On the 16th of July 2025, Cabinet formally designates the Eastcliff and Springbourne Neighbourhood Forum as a qualifying body for 5 years to develop the neighbourhood plan within the approved area. And I'm really pleased that it is now designated as a neighbourhood plan fan myself, and that no other organisation may be designated for that neighbourhood area until it is withdrawn. This does not affect the existence or the creation of any other community groups to operate in the area. As a result of the spending review in June 2025, MHCLG has now withdrawn new grants or technical support to neighbourhood forums, town and parish councils. This is published on the National Community Group Network Locality, and I have a link to the website. But this means that no new neighbourhood planning forums will be able to access the £10,000 grant funding that was previously offered to help towards the cost of procuring evidence to support the neighbourhood plans. We are aware that a number of MPs have raised concerns about the implications for communities, which may well struggle to raise funds to support evidence gathering activities. We understand that the existing commitments within will continue to be funded by MHCLG only until March 2026. Just to give some background, on the 19th of June, the Housing Minister, Matthew Pennycook MP, stated the government remains of the view that neighbourhood plans can play an important role in the planning system, despite government financial support ending for forums. MHCLG have confirmed that LPAs will continue to be compensated for their neighbourhood planning functions. So that's the ability to claim the funding element when issuing a decision statement to proceed to a referendum. The BCP Council does have a statutory duty to advise and support neighbourhood forums, though the process and stages of preparing the neighbourhood plans through the process and stages and will continue to do so in accordance with the statement of community involvement. In terms of funding, though, I do have a solution which works well in other areas of the country to fund and support the creation of neighbourhood plans, ensuring residents can take control of their own destiny and create the neighbourhood that they want to see. And that is working with your local town or parish council, if only we had one.
Thank you, Leader. Councillor Armstrong, do you have a supplementary question here? No, thank you. Righty-ho, that was the end of the questions. Thanks to everybody for the questions and the answers. Now, just a couple more items on this list. Item 5, urgent decisions taken by the Chief Executive in accordance with the Constitution. I'm going to ask the Chief Executive to advise members of these decisions. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So 3 urgent decisions have been taken, details of which all 3 are available on the website. But in terms of just the headlines, first was the acceptance of additional Environment Agency grant funding. So this is an urgent decision taken by the previous Chief Executive to accept £9.8 million from the Environment Agency. Secondly, the appointment of an interim, or our interim Director of Legal and Governance and our monitoring officer. So this is Robin here. So that was an urgent decision that I took on my second day in the absence of, following the departure of the previous monitoring officer. So it's a temporary arrangement while we go through a formal recruitment process. And the third decision was taken by our Chief Operations Officer, and that was to purchase a replacement telehandler, which, as I understand, is a large piece of machinery used as part of the Operations Directorate. So it was an urgent decision to replace a piece of equipment. Those are the 3. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dunn. I think that's all very good. Now we're on to item 6, and item 6 is the recruitment of a corporate director of wellbeing. And can I just say that the appendices attached to this report are exempt. So if we wish to go into that discussion, which I'm sure we won't, then we will have to exclude the public. So moving on to that, recruitment of a corporate director of wellbeing. It didn't appear on the agenda for the 22nd of the July meeting. And obviously, I have had to agree that it should be dealt with as a matter of urgency at this reconvened meeting, because it is a need to appoint to this role. So Councillor Earl, as leader, I understand you'll move the recommendation, and Councillor Wilson is going to second. So Councillor Earl.
Thank you. Yes, I'm happy to move the recommendation to appoint Laura Ambler as our new Director of Wellbeing. Many councillors will be aware we've been missing someone from this role since Gillian Kay went off to be the Chief Exec of Southampton, and we haven't yet had the chance to recruit to the permanent role. However, after a competitive interview process, cross-party panel, as well as stakeholder groups who were also questioning our candidates, we have successfully decided that Laura Ambler, who will be joining us from her previous role in, I can't remember where she is, Baines, will make an excellent addition to BCP Council, to our corporate management board, and to all the people who rely on services within the wellbeing corporate directorship. Thank you.
Thank you, leader. Councillor Wilson, you're going to second.
Happy to second and reserve my right to speak if needed.
Well, members, Councillor Wilson, you anticipate a debate. I don't know if there is any debate on this. Does anybody wish to speak? Apart from Councillor Wilson, who's popped up again on my screen.
You never know with these things, so no, just really happy to recommend. I was part of the interview process and was an outstanding candidate, so I'm very pleased with the proposed appointment.
Yes, thank you. Councillors, we have had a lot of paperwork on this subject, and as I say, if we have to debate now, we will have to go into exempt session. So is anybody wishing to debate, or can we go straight to a proper vote? Right, I'm going to ask the members to vote on accepting the appointment. Thank you. Members, can you get ready to vote, please? Members, has everybody voted? Right, I think we can see that on our screens. So yes, we have a few abstentions, and otherwise everybody in favour. So thank you for that. That was item 6, wasn't it? I believe we've come to the end of this. Before I'm going to close the meeting, but I do have one thing to say before you all leave the room. So after I close the meeting, will you please stay for a moment? Thank you. Thank you, Mr.